Three things that you cannot look badass or tough while doing. Sipping anything through a straw. Licking an ice cream cone. And holding a puppy and or kitten. You cannot look tough. You gotta just accept the fact that you cannot look like a badass while doing any of those three things. What's going on, everybody? It's the B-Hole, episode 30. Things are going all right for me down here south of the border in Mexico. I'm definitely enjoying myself down here, learning a lot, eating a lot of good-ass food, of course. I know if anyone in the United States is listening right now, which I think most of my listeners and followers are in the States. I know there's a lot of bullshit going on up there right now with this wall. And I'm not going to get into a political rant. Relax. But there's a lot of people that live paycheck to paycheck, that have government jobs. And they can't work now or make their money. They can't pay their bills. They can't buy their fucking groceries. Simply because there's a group of people that want to build a wall between Mexico and America. I don't think it's going to even happen anytime soon. Like, even if they were going to build a wall, the fucking thing wouldn't even be, wouldn't even be up for, I'm guessing it would take years to build. But it kind of makes you think, like, with this government shutdown, how many things need to be government run? Can't more things be privatized? And I'm not gonna sit here again. I'm not gonna go on a rant, but I think the government shutdown will make people think, like, if less entities, if less businesses and industries were ran by the government, then a government shutdown wouldn't matter. And I also think it's kind of funny. It's like people are saying, the government sucks, man. Fucking government sucks, dude. I wish they'd fuck off, dude. And obviously these aren't the smartest people, of course. But now that the government is shut down and they did fuck off, now everyone's bitching. So people are going to bitch no matter what. Anyways, like I said, not going to get into political rant, but I do feel for all the people in the States that have a government job, or, your husband or wife or whatever has a government job, and, you guys are struggling now financially simply because politicians are throwing a temper tantrum because they want to build a fucking wall. And I really don't think a wall is again, I'm not a political expert, but I'm using common sense. I really don't think that a wall is really going to solve much of anything, at least not long term. People are asking me too, like, how are Mexicans treating me? Because before I came here, when I was living in the States, a lot of people wished me well, of course, down here. But there were obviously haters and trolls and people that like to talk shit, because that's how they validate their own existence, by talking shit to people who they'll never even see in person. They like to talk shit and say, "Oh man, no joke, you're gonna get your ass kicked down there, man. You're gonna get your fucking face caved in down there by all the good boxers. You're gonna get shot. You're gonna get kidnapped. You're gonna do blah blah blah. You're gonna get robbed and mugged, and the Mexicans aren't gonna like you." As if you fucking know me personally. As if because you watched a few of my videos, you fucking know me personally and you got me all figured out. Well, let me just tell you something about how I conduct myself in the general public. Whether I'm in Cambodia, the United States, Mexico, I'm a very respectful, reserved person. I'm very polite. I say, if someone smiles at me or says hi to me, I respond in a very polite way. I don't mean mug people. I don't walk around like some stereotypical American douchebag thinking that I'm better than everybody because I'm American. That's retarded. I make an effort to speak Spanish with the locals, albeit my Spanish is by no means good, compared to a native speaker. It shows them that I'm coming to their country, with a humble and respectful attitude. Because I know that there's Americans that come to, there's actually, so Mexico City has, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Mexico City has the largest American expat population of any city in the world. Obviously outside of America, hence the term expat. and a lot of them only mingle with each other. Like you have, I want to say there's something like 50,000 American expats here like just in Mexico City, and they're all, like they're spread out in different little pockets, but there's certain areas where there's a lot of them, and they only really hang out with each other. Like they want to speak English all the time. They want to do American things, talk about American things, hang out with American people, eat American food or non-Mexican food. They don't really want to integrate with the locals. And I obviously think that's fucked up. I mean, I think that's kind of silly. And I also think that a lot of these people are just here for work. Maybe they're here for like a lower cost of living. But like they still want to have their American lifestyle, but for a fraction of the price. And I get it. And the same could be said for Latino immigrants that migrate to the United States. There are countless. Like you go to any big city, there are countless neighborhoods where it's predominantly Hispanic. A lot of these people, they have no interest in making, quote unquote, American friends. They don't want to speak English. They don't want to they pretty much want to stick with each other. Like in my last job I worked at a restaurant, and if you guys know anything about the restaurant business in the United States, if you go to the back of the house, meaning the kitchen, the dishwasher, it's going to be pretty much all Hispanic people. And I would ask them too. I'd be like, I'd ask them in Spanish or English if they spoke, and I'd be like, so how long have you been, in this country? They'd be like, oh, 2, 3 years, 5, some people 10 years, some people 15 years. And they'd be like, man, and you don't speak any English? They'd be like, no. And I'd be like, so do you have any American friends? Nope. Just, and it's sad because it's sad on one aspect because they're never going to grow. They're just going to stagnate. They're going to do the same thing. They come from their country. They go to America. And if they're in America legally, then fine. And they just want to do it to make more money than they ever could in their country, save it up, send it back, whatever, and then maybe one day go back. And I get it. But just on like a metaphysical standpoint, like you're never going to grow as a person. You're not going to grow your minds. You're not going to grow your consciousness. You're just going to do the same fucking thing until you die. And I think that's kind of lame, and I think that's kind of sad. And I guess the same could be said for these American expats that come to Mexico or any other country in the world, and they really don't want to integrate with the Mexican culture. They probably don't really want to learn Spanish. They don't want to go to the street food stalls, sit on those little plastic chairs with the locals and just kind of see how they do their thing. And I just think that's kind of weak, man. I just think that's kind of weak. And I'm really, really glad I'm not like that. Like, since I've been here, I haven't met one, I'm trying to think, I haven't met one not Mexican person. Aside from one white dude on the street that claimed a taxi cab, drove off with his backpack and all his money. He was actually asking me for money. So my only encounter with an American or any non-Hispanic person has been a dude who, lost his shit and was asking me for money. So it wasn't the best. I also don't have an interest in making American friends here. I mean, to be quite honest. I'm sure I will and all that, but the way I see it is I came to Mexico, and I don't want to be like all these countless other lame-ass expats, and I don't want to be like all the countless other immigrants that go to the United States and just want to stay in their comfort zone, not grow, not learn, and just stay in their little cultural bubble. And I just think that's super fucking weak. In fact, when I go out and I see other Americans and I hear them speaking English, I'm not saying I don't like them, of course. I'm just saying that I don't really, I almost kind of avoid them. I just don't want to talk to them, honestly. But on second thought, I don't really like talking to anybody, really. I'm not like a social butterfly anyways. But the Mexicans are treating me great, man. I haven't felt unsafe once. I think a lot of that is due to the fact that I'm not the type of guy to go out to bars and clubs and, get drunk and be belligerent. I'm not the kind of guy to stay out all night with strangers. I'm not the kind of guy to, I have a good head on my shoulders and I have a lot of common sense, and that can go for anybody. Um, you know, and I know that I bring up Cambodia a lot, and I will continue to always in the future. Like, before I moved to Cambodia, I spent a week in Thailand, and I was doing research on, just Cambodia. Like, is it dangerous? Do I have anything to worry about? Is there crime? Blah, 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 blah. And I came across forum after article after website, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on about how these Western expats would go there and they'd walk down an alley and they'd get mugged by three dudes with knives and, pipes and shit. And about how, people got robbed by tuk-tuks and by, like if you got a ride from a tuk-tuk to your apartment at nighttime, to ask the tuk-tuk driver to walk you to your door because, so you don't get robbed. And then I started to actually get nervous. I was like, oh shit, like I better, I better be on my P's and Q's. And so the first thing I did is I actually got out of bed, I started shadow boxing and just like working on my form and just working on my footwork and my head movement. I was like, man, if someone fucks me, I'm going to punch them in the fucking face. Which obviously, if there's three dudes who really want to mug you, and especially if they have weapons, chances are, that's probably not going to work so well, Unless you're just a total badass and you can knock out three grown men in like 2 seconds, which I cannot, I don't think I can do that. But my point is that I spent 2 years there. I went all over Cambodia. I was always by myself. I would walk through very poor areas, very poverty-stricken areas at nighttime, at daytime, and I never had a problem, ever. And I think a lot of that's due to, it's about personal ownership, about personal responsibility, about how you carry yourself, the kind of vibe you give off, the kind of energy that you give off to people. And the type of the type of vibe that I believe I give off to people, especially when I'm walking around at night, is that, first of all, I'm not a threat. I don't give a fuck I'm like, your business is not my business. I don't care. I rarely look people in the eye, especially at nighttime. I just kind of go my own way. And if you do give me a problem, chances are, it's like, I'm not just going to give you my fucking money. Fuck off, dude. And I just encourage anybody that's listening right now to take the same kind of thing. Now, maybe you're a smaller guy or you're a female who's listening. That might be different for you. Now, if you're a female, I would not suggest you walk around at nighttime by yourself anywhere. I mean, and you can call me sexist or whatever. Like, my woman, she's a native Mexican. She speaks Spanish. She kind of knows the culture and all that. She refuses to walk around at nighttime by herself. The only time she would is if she was with me. So the Mexicans treat me very, very well. And it's kind of cool too, because although I'm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy, and I'm a güero, which means like I'm like a blonde, blue-eyed guy, I still feel like I kind of blend in a way. So people aren't like looking at me or like scoping me out all the time. I feel like I can just walk around, go anywhere, and no one's staring at me. No one's looking at me like, like, who the fuck is this gringo? Now, again, that could be because I'm in a major city, the biggest city in this fucking hemisphere, of course, and the locals might be kind of used to that international presence. But when I go to the smaller towns in a few weeks, or actually in like a week or so, I'll be sure to let you guys know if it's any different. Something else I like about the Mexican culture is that they're very courteous to women and elders. For example, like I was on the subway a couple weeks ago, and it's actually a super fucking packed subway. Like, the subway here in Mexico City is fucking ridiculous. And there was an old woman standing up, kind of by herself. She was holding onto the pole, and like within a second, like two dudes got up who didn't even know each other. Like two dudes got up to offer her the seat. And obviously she took it. Like when I'm walking down the street and there's kind of like a narrow pass, I noticed that the men will always let the women, especially the elders too, pass first. And I do that innately. But there's a lot of people that don't. Like they think they're more fucking important than everybody. And I just think that, that's kind of good. Like I'm not always old fashioned, but I'm old fashioned in that sense. Like I do feel like you should give the women and the elders and the children, the right to pass first, as opposed to a guy. Like, and obviously like, another example would be when I'm driving around with my woman now. Right now, I still have a brace on my hands. So I don't really like to drive a whole lot, so she does a lot of the driving. And the traffic here in Mexico City is pretty fucking crazy. It's pretty ridiculous, and sometimes you got to put your hand out and ask to go. She has, she sticks her little hand out the window with her nice nails and all that, and immediately a dude will stop and just let her go. And she was telling me too, she's like, that's how it is here in Mexico, like because they see the fingernail polish, like the woman saying like a man will always let you go. But she was telling me that if it was me, that they would be like, nah, fuck you, motherfucker. Like I'm going first. So guys aren't quite as quick to be as courteous to other men, which I kind of get it. But there's kind of like that, what's that called? Chivalry. Chivalry. It was on the tip of my tongue. Chivalry is big here in Mexico, and that's nice. The guys here, I can tell that they're kind of romantic with their women and everything. And, I guess that kind of goes back to that whole, like, machismo culture here in Mexico. And I like it. It's cool. In Mexico, dude, Mexico has everything you need. Especially here in the city. Like, just within walking distance, like in a, we could say like in a, maybe like a 500-yard radius, or meter radius, pardon me, I'm in Mexico. You have anything you would ever want. Any type of street food, coffee, people to repair your shoes, people to repair your belts, people, people, what are they called? Fucking tailors. People who can fix clothes and like resize clothes. Surgeons, plastic surgeons, therapists. I mean, ophthalmologists. Obviously, you got like the supermarkets. You got places to get your car fixed, get your windows tinted. I mean, any kind of service you would need is within walking distance, at least from where I live. And that's something you do not see in the United States, even in a major city. Even in a major city, like if I want to get my headphones fixed in the United States, now I'm sure that there's places that can do it, but good luck fucking finding one that's like right there. And for like a cheap ass price, or to get your shoes fixed, or even a belt fixed. Anything you need can be fixed, can be bought, can be serviced within walking distance. And that's just something you don't see in the United States. Like something I've noticed here in Mexico is that it seems like on literally every block, there's a plethora of pharmacies, and like legit pharmacies, where you can go in there, get a consultation, get a prescription, and then buy it right there in the same building. There are car washes, which they actually have guys that like wash your car. You have car washes, pharmacies, and you have endless street food, and you just don't get that in the States. The only appeal that I could see for immigrants coming from Mexico and Latin America to America, the only appeal, well, besides obviously let's just say Mexico. The biggest appeal I could see coming from Mexico to the United States is simply economic. It's the economic advantage. It's you can make more money, like if you're in El Salvador, or Guatemala, or Honduras, or Nicaragua, or a place like that, not only are you trying to come to America to make more money, but you're most likely fleeing fucking intense violence. Where the government is run by MS-13 or other gangs, but the fucking 18th Street gang. Now, I'm not saying that there's not places in Mexico like that too. There's definitely parts of Mexico where it's violence stricken, where people get killed. Drug rings or cartels might have most of the power, unfortunately, and they want to come to America for a better life. I get that. But as an American guy living in Mexico now for over a month, seeing the options, like, again, with the food, the medical care is good. The endless places to get things fixed and serviced and buy things. The endless awesome parks. And just the list goes on. I personally don't see the appeal of living in the States. Personally, I don't really want to move back there now after being in Mexico now. Now, as time goes on, I might, find other reasons to go back to the States, but I'm just saying now the only reason I could see is simply to make more money. Just the sheer amount. And obviously my family and everything. When I was growing up, it was always America is the greatest country in the world. It's the best country in the world. We're the top. We're the best. We're better than everybody. And I think what that does is subconsciously, it makes people think less of people from other countries. It makes people think. It's nationalism is basically what it is, and it basically teaches you to hate people that you don't know. It teaches you to hate, or not always hate, but it teaches you to look down upon people you don't know, to look down upon languages and cultures and customs and traditions that you know nothing about. And it kind of promotes this ignorant state of mind. Is America the best country in the world? Well, maybe for some things, but there's debate that Mexico is the best country in the world for some things as well. Of course. I know that North Korea and fucking Eritrea and Djibouti and freaking Bangladesh, those are definitely not the best countries in the world. Those are one of the shittiest places in the world. When I turned 17, I was actually in Oregon in the United States. I was in Oregon. I was visiting my aunt. And on my 17th birthday, we went to the Pacific Ocean. It was my first time ever seeing the Pacific Ocean. And obviously, if you go to Oregon on the coast, beautiful cliffs, these alpines, kind of rainforest. And I was there with my grandmother and my aunt. And we got into this discussion about the Pledge of Allegiance. And about how it's kind of stupid. And obviously, I'm not going to go into a rant about it and like recite it. But if you break down the Pledge of Allegiance, if you just read it and look at it, if you just read it and just think about what it's saying, it's kind of dumb. It doesn't really make any fucking sense, and it's a total fucking lie. And up until that point, I always stood for the Pledge of Allegiance in school because every single morning, and I think it was homeroom or first period or whatever it was, we had to stand up, recite the Pledge of Allegiance, give a moment of silence, which is based on religion, of course. And after that, she basically kind of brought some insight about how nationalism is kind of stupid. And there's nothing wrong with being a patriot, and there's nothing wrong with being proud of your country. But when it gets to the point where you look down upon other cultures and other countries based on nothing, just based on what you're taught in school, then that promotes this ignorant mindset, and it promotes this false sense of superiority, which is kind of stupid. So when I went back to Virginia from Oregon, from then on out, I never stood for the Pledge of Allegiance. I was always the only kid in class who never stood. And everybody else did. And, I guess I was kind of fortunate too, because although I grew up in a very, like a small town in Virginia where the vast majority of people were very conservative, quote unquote, Republican or whatever you want to call it, I never got hassled for not standing up. I never got like the teacher never said anything. The other students didn't really care, which was good. I didn't want to raise controversy, but I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't blindly just stand up and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, blindly recite it, and then just sit back down. I just thought it was dumb. So, anyways, as Speaking of car washes here in Mexico, it's kind of cool how they do it in person. Like it's mostly just like native kids, you know, from the outer states of Mexico City, and my woman was there getting the car wash the other day, and she came back and she was telling me that these guys were having a conversation but whistling. That there are, and again, I'm not an expert on this. I mean, I could do some more research on it, but there are languages here in Mexico where you just whistle. And it kind of made me think, because when I grew up, you know, there were a fair amount of Hispanic kids in my town, like not a lot. And obviously, like I worked in restaurants, and I had, I had exposure to people from El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, all that area. And I noticed that they could all fucking whistle. And not necessarily have like a conversation, but they could just like put their tongue somehow in their mouth and like press it against their lip, and they could just whistle so loud it would almost like sometimes hurt my ears. And I just always thought it was kind of funny, like how can all these Mexicans whistle so good? And it kind of makes sense now that maybe that's just kind of ingrained in their culture. And the first time I really ever heard about them doing it was I was watching this documentary on YouTube with Hamilton Morris. And Hamilton Morris is he's kind of like a reporter slash like a journalist. He's a scientific researcher, pardon me. And he studies psychoactive drugs. He's done a lot of things with Vice. Yeah, I'm sure that some of you know what I'm talking about. He's been on the Joe Rogan show. He had his own series called Pharmacopoeia with Hamilton Morris, where he kind of goes around, does like these little documentaries about different drugs and psychoactive substances. And there was this one where he went to Mexico, and he ended up going to, I believe, Oaxaca, which is I'm actually going to be going there soon, where he wanted to learn more about salvia. And anyways, you know, he ended up going and everything, and there was a scene where he was with this young, like this guy who spoke Spanish, English, and some of the indigenous languages, and these guys were having a conversation with each other and whistling. Like they were actually forming sentences and like voicing, or I guess their thought process, except it was a whistle. And it just fucking blew me away, dude. But it makes total sense. Like if you can talk in Morse code, then why couldn't you talk in whistling? I just think that just fucking blew me away. So like it kind of makes me think like what other languages are out there, man? You know, can you like the whole like tongue clicking thing? There's some African languages that have the tongue click. Maybe you can clap your hands together somehow, but I don't know. I just thought that was great, and Mexico is just proving to be a very, very interesting place. A lot of rich history here. So let's change gears here. I occasionally like to watch cringe videos on YouTube, and I know that some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, there's countless videos on YouTube. They're called like awkward cringe compilation, or this and that. There's so many of them. And I've watched quite a lot over the last couple years, and some of them have been pretty bad. But the other day, I came across one that I'm actually going to play for you guys, and I'm going to just kind of discuss it, that I literally could not make it a minute into. Now, it's like a 3-minute video, and the title of the video is called Quentin Tarantino is Bad at Talking to Black People. And I'll just give you guys like a little preface here. If you guys don't know, Quentin Tarantino is a very, very successful, very famous director, producer, writer, all that shit. He's made movies like Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Django Unchained, I think Sin City. I mean, he's made a lot of very, very popular, like these controversial movies, and he's going on to this show. It's like a black talk show, and it's basically like 6-7 black people. It's an all black panel. They have Quentin Tarantino come out, and they just kind of ask him questions for a little bit, and I cannot believe how Quentin Tarantino is actually talking, and how he's like trying to relate, I guess, like assimilate to black people. One of the most cringy things I ever saw was when Hillary Clinton This is a long time ago. When Hillary Clinton was doing a speech. I think it was like the NAACP convention. And she goes up there and she's talking normally. And I guess she wants to like get the black vote or somehow kind of relate to black people. And I forget exactly what she said. But she starts talking like she starts talking like an old black lady, like, y'all ain't gonna bring me down. I'm a strong woman, you hear? You know, like stuff like that. It's like, where the fuck did that come from? And as a white dude, or just no, fuck the fact that I'm a white guy. How was that not cringy as fuck? I almost I really thought about killing myself in that moment because of the fucking impossible cringe level. So anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna play this video. I want you guys to listen. And you guys can actually look this up. Like I said, it's called Quentin Tarantino is Bad at Talking to Black People. It's a 3-minute video. I made it a minute in last time. I had to turn it off based on the cringe level. This is the cringiest video on YouTube, in my opinion, so far. Here we go. Alright, so they're just starting it up. Little Bow Wow. Please welcome writer, director, and Academy Award winner Quentin Tarantino. So he's walking out right now. To be like one of the most quoted movies in Hollywood with just the lines and everything. So you got to give us, this is my question for you, Curious. What is the most famous, like your favorite line from Pulp Fiction? I think probably the most famous line is, I'm going to get medieval on your ass. He has the most uncomfortable look on his face right now, Tarantino.
Pleasing your fans or pleasing the critics for you?
Oh, interesting question, actually. Well, I want to please my fans, and I want to please the critics that are my fans. The critics ain't my fans. I don't give a damn.
I can't believe he's trying to talk black, dude.
I think the other thing when you're working with Quentin...
And dude, I'm positive. I think it's Jamie Foxx. All right, so you got Samuel L. Jackson, Kerry Washington, Jamie Foxx, and they were all in Django Unchained. Jamie Foxx is sitting at the end, and you should, if you guys can pull this up, look at the fucking... the most uncomfortable look on his face. Samuel L. Jackson and Jamie Foxx are both like looking down at the ground, like, what the fuck is Quentin Tarantino doing right now? Dude, it's just bad.
What he's really doing is fulfilling his vision. You know, he's a visionary director. For us to have the opportunity to work with.
Now, I'm not that computer savvy. So if he had sent me something that I plug into my computer, I don't know if I would have ever heard it. All right, hey, download this. I don't know how to do that. All right, so he put it on a cassette tape. Then Jamie, my man, all right.
Wow, dude, you should see the look on their faces, dude. The black people.
Back with Rick Ross and the whole posse. We all got contact high on the set that day.
Samuel L. Jackson is not pleased. You should see the look on his fucking face, dude.
Black grace so I can lay
Jamie Foxx.
I need 100 black preachers with a black circle.
Go over to Carrie with my little tape recorder playing. That's in the movie.
Oh
and
my
Anthony
God,
Hamilton
dude.
running a joint that was just fantastic. And I took it home and I played it. I go, this is the bomb.
This is the bomb, dude. Wow, dude.
The movies are always filled with songs, but it's always stuff that I chose from either my own collection or something like that. I never had like a music supervisor hook me up with stuff. It's always stuff I chose. Probably the reason I never did that is I didn't want to actually go up to an artist and ask them to write something, and then they do Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Charlie Brown special. Right. What was that one with Fred Astaire as the mailman? He's narrating it. Santa Claus is coming to town.
All right, that's the end of the video. Anyways, basically, I can kind of relate to this. When I was in middle school, I grew up in a small town, Virginia. There was, quite a few black kids there. And I was kind of at that age where I didn't really know who I was. I didn't have a clique. I didn't have a group. And for some reason, the black kids, not always, but were kind of admired for their style. And this is very common, right? So I would get the FUBU. I would get the FUBU jersey. I would get the gold, like the Figaro. What's that style of like silver chain called? With like I get like a pit bull emblem. I get the Iverson shoes, and I only did it not just for the black kids, but I did it to be cool because it seemed like the black kids were kind of respected for like for being cool. And obviously in hindsight that's fucking retarded, and they don't give a fuck if I want to assimilate with them anyway. Like to them I'm still a white boy. And then one day I looked at myself in the mirror wearing this FUBU, wearing the gold the fucking silver chain, the Iversons, trying to kind of like emulate this hip hop thing, and I just looked at my face. I'm like, wait, I look nothing like these people. I don't talk like them. I don't even like hip-hop music. What the fuck am I doing? So I'm glad that I got to a point where I realized that what I was doing was silly. It was an illusion. It was fake. But you still see so many white dudes in the States, and they get like the chin strap beard. Like they try to like they carve it down so they have it's called a G-strap. So it's like a chin strap beard, but really, really thin. And you guys know what I'm talking about, right? They got the super thin G-strap. They're going down the cheek, or no, not the cheek, the jaw and the chin. And then they got the pencil thin mustache. They got the pencil thin mustache on the lip. I think the only kind of guys that could really pull off the pencil thin are black dudes and Latinos. White guys with the pencil thin, I mean, I'm sure some can do it, but generally white dudes pull off a full beard or like a goatee and stuff like that. And you can always tell when a white dude is trying to pull off the black look. Like every time this guy wakes up in the morning and he looks at himself in the mirror, he's mad that he's white. He wishes he was black. And I think it's sad too. And watching Quentin Tarantino talk to that all black panel it was totally unnecessary for him to talk that way. He doesn't, he talks like, hey, I'm Quentin Tarantino, I'm a director, and blah, I like fucking beef stroganoff, haha, whatever. And then all of a sudden he starts to pull off like this makeshift black voice, which is almost kind of like racist in a way, assuming that by him talking that way that black people are going to relate to him. It's kind of racist in a way, assuming that all black people speak that way in like an uneducated manner, and some do. And but the worst part was to look at Samuel L. Jackson's face and the other black people on the panel, like with that awkward smile, like should I laugh, should I not laugh, because it's so painfully uncomfortable and awkward. And Quentin Tarantino too, like a lot of his movies, are pretty controversial because pretty much every movie he used the word nigger in it. Like in Pulp Fiction, he was actually in Pulp Fiction, and he had a scene where he kept referring to the dead black dude as the dead nigger. He said it like, fucking 10, 12 times. And Django Unchained, obviously, they use the word in there. In a lot of his movies, he kind of has that element in it. But it's not helping his cause. Dude, it's bad. It's bad. I wonder, that seems to only be a thing in America, right? Because if you go to England or like the UK anywhere, pretty much it seems like, and again, I've never been there, but based on what I've seen on like videos and stuff, black people and white people have the same kind of accent, unless they're straight out of Africa. But they have the same kind of accent over there. Whereas if you come over here to the States, there's a clear distinction between how a black guy talks or black people talk and white people talk in general. Again, there's a lot of black people that they don't have the quote unquote black voice, of course. And then you occasionally have white people that have the quote unquote black voice. Is it fabricated? Is it fake? Is it legit? I hope it's legit. I don't know, man. It just when I saw that was cringy as fuck. Anyways, changing gears again. Shout out to Quentin Tarantino and your awkward fucking interviews, dude. Wow. A while back in Phnom Penh, I did a speech. I did a live speech for this thing called Nerd Night. And it's basically this platform where people get up, they speak for 6-7 minutes about any kind of subject in a rapid fire slideshow type format. And I did a few of them. My third one, I discussed different types of martial arts. I talked about why boxing is actually more dangerous for your health than any other martial art. I talked about the introduction of boxing gloves and why boxing gloves are actually more dangerous. And like how the reason that boxing gloves were brought about were not to protect the fighter getting hit, but were brought about to protect the fighter's hands who were doing the hit. Who was giving out the hits, so they could punch harder, more often without having to break their hand. And I talked about how mixed martial arts is basically a combination of all, just basically trying to give like a very basic overview of martial arts, common misconceptions, and what MMA is and why it kind of gets a bad rap. And at the end of the speech, people can ask questions. And this one girl asked me a question. She said, and she was very sincere and genuine. She was very nice. And she said, so what is the best way for somebody who doesn't have any experience to get into martial arts? And I didn't give her a good answer. I was like, well, the best way to do it is just to get started. Like just get started, which obviously get started. And I kind of saw the look on her face as like she was kind of disappointed with my answer, and she was like, maybe thought I was kind of a dick for saying that, maybe like I blew her off. So I thought about it. I've been thinking about it. And I actually get asked this question occasionally in emails, like, I want to get started in Muay Thai or BJJ, blah, blah. Like, what's the best martial art to learn for self-defense? And I'm going to just talk a bit about it. Best way to get started in martial arts. Well, first of all, you have to ask yourself, why do you want to get into it? Why do you want to get into martial arts? Do you want to get into martial arts and believe me, there are a lot of reasons. Some people get into martial arts because they want people to know they do martial arts. They want a peacock. They want, yeah, I do Muay Thai. I do boxing. I do jiu-jitsu, bro. Don't fuck with me. My dick's bigger than yours, man. Some people get into it simply because they want to know how to defend themselves in a confrontation. People get into it because they just want to get in shape. And they don't feel like doing the traditional route, like running, lifting weights, and all that bullshit, which I totally get. Why did I get into martial arts? I got into it because my younger brother, was really into UFC, and this was years ago, of course. And I was never really into like MMA or anything. And the more I started watching it, the more I became obsessed with the sport and kind of the culture of it, or not really the culture of it, but just the more I became into the lifestyle of being like a martial artist, or just learning that, because it seemed very tough to do and it seemed like an admirable thing to do. So I got into it originally to almost to relate more to my younger brother, actually, because he was so into it, and I was like, well, I really love my little brother. And he's so into it, well, maybe I'm actually going to go train. And then I did, and then I realized that I had so much to learn with it. Like, I realized how out of shape I was. I realized how I wasn't how I really couldn't fight that good. I realized how much technique is involved in martial arts, and how much discipline, and just how the lifestyle of training martial arts on a regular basis can really shape and mold a person for the better. So let me break it down here. If you want to get started in martial arts, first ask yourself, why do you want to get into it? And be honest with yourself. Do you want to do it so you can seem tough to other people? Because there are people like that. Do you want to do it because you want to get in shape? Do you want to do it because you want to learn how to defend yourself? Well, let's just assume that you want to do it to learn how to defend yourself and hopefully get in better shape. And you're not the kind of guy or girl that wants to do it simply to have that air about you that people are going to think you're badass, because those are the type of people that don't last. Because if you get into martial arts with the mindset like, I'm going to do this to be a badass, so people will think I'm tough, so people won't fuck with me, well, that's the wrong reason to do it. You're going to start, you're going to, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be hard, and it's not going to be all fun and games. It's not going to be cool. You're going to realize the discipline and dedication and sacrifice it takes to get good at it. And then you're most likely going to quit. And you're not going to have a passion for it, which is the biggest thing. If you get into it because you get bullied, or because you want to defend yourself in a street fight or whatever, or because you want to get in better shape, then you're going to naturally have the motivation and passion behind your eyes to stick with it and be consistent, which I'll talk about consistency here in a second. Number one, preparing your body. Let's say you're somebody that does not exercise at all. Like, let's just say that on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is somebody who's completely sedentary. You've never worked out a day in your life. You can't even run 100 feet without fucking falling over. You can't do 1 push-up. You're a 1. Number 10 is obviously like peak condition, like professional MMA fighter. If you're anywhere from like a 1 to even 2 or 3, before you get into training every day, consider training your martial art, I'd say 3 days a week, just something that's moderate, like take 1 day on, 1 day off. And in between, you need to prepare your body with things like calisthenics, things like bodyweight squats, push-ups, sit-ups, planks, Superman holds, pull-ups, dips, things like that to get your joints and your muscles accustomed to resistance and tension and just to build general strength. And after a couple months of that, then you can start to hit the weights. You can get into more like weights. You can get into medicine ball training. You can start using actual inanimate objects to work out. So you can build up your body, because if you just get into Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu or something like that with zero, with like weak muscles, weak joints, weak tendons, you're most likely going to get injured very fast, especially if you go balls out. So it's best to start slow and build your body up. And along with that comes diet, nutrition. Of course, you want to use common sense. You want to make sure you get enough protein, carbs, fats. You want to eat at the right times. You want to make sure that you have enough energy before you train, but not be too full to where you're going to be slow and sluggish. You want to make sure you get enough sleep. Just basic shit like that. And obviously that varies from person to person. Now, what kind of martial art do you want to do? In terms of self-defense, like general self-defense, I would say, in my personal opinion, the best martial arts for self-defense that are attainable by most able-bodied people would be boxing, Muay Thai, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'll just give you a brief overview. Boxing is the art of punching people in the face and knocking them out. It's the art of keeping a distance with striking. It's the art of not getting hit in the head, basically. And a lot of it involves footwork, head movement, angles, and punching to the face and body. So that's very good to know in a street fight, because in a street fight, 9 times out of 10, the first thing to happen is a punch, right? And if you can be trained on how to like avoid a punch and slip and counter, like for example, if somebody throws an overhand right at you like a haymaker, wouldn't it be nice to know how to avoid the punch and then immediately counter strike them and knock them out? Well, that's kind of what boxing is. And Muay Thai is very similar, except it involves punching, kicking, knees and elbows, and clinching, and even trips to the ground. So what if somebody like grabs a hold of you? Well, Muay Thai would teach you how to defend yourself and attack in a clinching position, attack with elbow strikes, knee strikes, and punches as well. Leg kicks, kicks to the face, kicks to the body. I'd say the best striking art overall is obviously Muay Thai, because it encompasses everything. But it's good to supplement it with boxing, because often what you find with Muay Thai is that they kind of they don't really teach good boxing. It's more like very basic, lazy kind of boxing, and then they kind of emphasize kicks, kicks, elbows, and knees more. So it's good to know both. And then Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, of course, because it's basically the art of fighting in a submissive position. So if somebody pushes you on the ground and gets on top of you, or they punch you in the face and they get on top of you and want to beat you up, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would give you the tools to be in a bad position and then defend and attack and submit that person like a choke, an arm bar where you could break someone's arm, and a heel hook, a knee bar, the list goes on. And it's a way for a smaller person to defeat a bigger person, because chances are, if you're a small person and a bigger person attacks you and they just want to strike with you, like throw punches and kicks, the likelihood of the smaller person knocking that bigger person out, it's just a matter of physics, probably not in your favor. Obviously there's exceptions for the rule, but percentage wise, you are more likely to be able to choke that person out into submission, then go toe-to-toe with a guy twice your size and knock him out with a punch. It can happen, of course, and you can get him off you, but it's good to know how to defend yourself in a submissive position and to attack. And then lastly, I'll say, to be decent at martial arts and to feel comfortable with yourself mentally and psychologically, you need to be consistent. Just like with anything else. You don't get better at something by not doing it, right? You don't get better at something by not doing it. If you want to get in, like if you are a bodybuilder and you want to put on muscle, you can't put on muscle by thinking about doing it and going on fucking Reddit and reading forums on Reddit or bodybuilding.com. No, you got to eat 8 fucking meals a day and hit the gym every day and be really fucking serious. So you have to be consistent with anything that you want to develop skill at and proficiency with, correct? It could be anything: cooking, painting, meditation, anything like that. Number 2, competition. I forget who said it. There's some MMA legend who said it, but you can't, what am I trying to say here? In order for you to really believe in your martial art skill, to feel comfortable with your training, to feel comfortable in the real world, in the raw, real world, with your skill set, you have to compete. I'm not saying you got to be a pro fighter, but you have to put it to the test against somebody else. You have to put it to the test against somebody else because there's so many people out there at these Mick dojos or these makeshift martial arts schools, where they spend years training in a martial art, and they believe in their instructor. They believe that they're half speed sparring, especially with stuff like Aikido and Krav Maga and these more like traditional martial arts, like even Taekwondo and karate. And I'm not saying that karate and Taekwondo aren't effective, but oftentimes a lot of the ways that they're trained is not like not like a real fight. And I'm going to get into that in a second. And then they go out there and they compete or they get in a fight and they get their fucking ass beat. There are several videos on YouTube. There's actually this famous one, of course, where it's this, I think a Kiai, I forget how you say it, like Kiai or something, this master. He's this old Asian dude, I'm not, Chinese or whatever, old Asian guy. And he boasts this record of 200 wins, 0 losses. And he's got, all these followers and people just swear by him like he's the second coming of God. And he does these energy throws where like he can just like whip his hand up and down and people will fly. And they kind of go along with it. And again, this is kind of an extreme example. But then they get this trained MMA fighter, and he agrees to fight the trained MMA fighter, which takes balls, knowing that he's full of shit. What happens? The MMA fighter beats him, beats the fuck out of him. And, everybody's shocked. And the same thing can happen even with boxing training, or Muay Thai, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, these martial arts that have been proven to be actually effective against real fighters. Like, the kind of martial art that you want to learn is a martial art that you can use against a badass, against somebody who's actually dangerous. Like Aikido, for example. Aikido might have some valid, tricks that might work against somebody who does not know how to fight at all. But if you have trained Aikido for 10 fucking years, I don't care how many fucking black belts you have, I don't care how many little like demonstrations and flows you've done or whatever. If you go against a guy who has been boxing seriously for 6 months, has a little bit of wrestling, chances are, if you fight the dude and he's serious, the guy who can box is going to fuck you up. He's going to fuck you up. And that's just real. I trained Muay Thai and boxing for, I don't know, a year and a half, maybe like 2 years, like a year and a half, something like that. I decided to go to Cambodia and get a couple fights. And I knew that I could never live with myself and teach other people and talk about it to other people had I not competed. Now, did I get to a high level in fighting? No, I did not. I would have if I didn't break my hand. But I had 3 fights in the ring, toe to toe against another dude who was also trained. This, I was fighting a guy who'd been training for a while. He was strong, he was tough, and he was probably, they were at a lower level too. But I'm so glad I competed. I had 3 fights. I finished my first 2. I finished my first 2 opponents. The third fight was a draw. Now I won, but it was in Cambodia and I didn't finish him, so it was a draw. But my point is that I'm really, really glad I competed, and I can take my training more seriously, and I can take myself more seriously, knowing that I've actually put my skills to the test, knowing that I could, hurt another guy and defend myself against a guy who was trying to hurt me. Anyways, that's my point. I have quite a bit of experience as a personal trainer and as a kickboxing, boxing trainer. And I've met people who, when I meet them, I'd be like, yeah, so how long have you been training? Or how long have you been kickboxing and boxing and all that? And they'd be like, oh, I've been doing it for 5 years, 6 years, whatever the case may be. And then I watch them hit the bag, or I watch them hold hold pads for them, and they look like shit. They look like it's their first fucking week. And it just goes to show that consistency is key, because I guarantee these people were not being consistent. And it goes to show too that competition or even sparring is pivotal. It's super, super important for you to have confidence in your skill. I've sparred guys before, and they were big dudes. They had big muscles. They were bigger and more impressive looking than me. And I'd be like, oh, so you've been doing this a while? And at this point, I had only been training for 6 months or, 8 months or whatever, not even a year. And they were like, yeah, man, I've been doing this for 3 years. I've been doing jiu-jitsu and MMA. And I'd be like, oh, fuck, I got to spar. This guy's going to kick my ass. But then I did it, I was a little nervous at first because I was my first time really sparring. And then I started watching them kind of moving around, and I could just easily punch them in the face. I could just easily knock them around, and they couldn't really do shit to me. And I just always wondered, you've been training for 4 years, or 3 or 4 years, and you are getting your ass kicked by a total beginner. Is it because you've never competed? Are you totally out of tune with your body? Do you have bad training? Are you not consistent? Are you stupid? So, if you ever meet somebody and they tell you that they have experience in martial arts and this and that, boxing or whatever it is, respectfully, without being a douchebag, kind of ask them, have you competed? Have you fought? And if they say no, then it's a good sign that they don't take it very seriously and that they're probably not very good. Chances are, again, there's exceptions to the rule. My brother, for example, has training, informal training and some formal training. He's never had a fight, but I've sparred with him, and he's not fun. It's not fun to do, at all. So there's exceptions to the rule, but anyways, I think I've worn out my welcome with this rant. Let's get into an email. I actually got a few emails, but this b-hole has been going on pretty long. I'm going to do an email or two. Then I'm going to do UFC fight picks for the upcoming fight this weekend with Dillashaw and Cejudo. I got this one a few days ago. Let's see here. And I know a lot of the gentlemen out here can relate to it. And if any ladies are listening right now, this might help you all out too. All right. By a gentleman named Craig Jones. And by the way, there's 10 zillion other Craig Jones out there, so fucking chill out, dude. Relax. No one's gonna fucking know who you are. Relax. Title of the email, Premature Ejaculation Advice. He says, hello, Breton. Well, for sure my name is Brayton, with an A. B-R-A-E-T-O-N. But anyways, hello, Breton. I am worried that I come too fast when having sex. Usually under 5 minutes. What do you think is an acceptable time, and how long do you usually last? Pardon me. Any advice or drug recommendations for asking longer? And then I responded to him saying that I talk about it in the b-hole. Premature ejaculation. Wow, that's a very common problem, man. That's a common problem for a lot of men out there. The only time I really prematurely ejaculated was with the first girl I was ever with. Of course, the first time I ever had sex, I used a condom, and it took me, from what I remember, it took me a little while to finish because I had a condom on, and I was a little nervous, of course, and I think she was too. But the first time I ever raw dogged it, I got on top of her, and I was obviously a teenager at the time. I raw dogged it, and I think about, 7, 8 pumps in, I just fucking busted. And, but as time went on and I had more sexual experience, I found the opposite to be true. I actually have sometimes an issue with delayed ejaculation, to be quite honest with you. Sometimes it takes me a while to come. And it's brought me a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, because I'll be, banging the person I'm banging, and she will, come once or twice. And after, like a set amount of time, I'm still not really at the point where I can bust. And I start to feel weird. And I actually had sex with this girl one time. She was this African girl, this black African chick. And out of we had probably been seeing each other for like a couple weeks. And this was, I was probably 21 at the time. This is in Alexandria, Virginia. And I met this girl. Her name was Jane. And she was a black African girl from, I think, Cameroon. And she was, she was pretty sexy. And I forget what we were doing. We're just kind of fucking around. And I did not expect to have sex with her or do anything. But what ended up happening was, I think she just started like rubbing my pants and like could feel my dick getting kind of hard. And she just unzipped my pants. And she's like, oh, like that. And she's just like, oh, yeah, like, oh, like something like your cock, like nice cock, or like, oh, whatever. Something like that. It was almost like a porno, right? It's like unzip my pants. Oh my God, I'm gonna suck it. But she starts sucking my dick, and then it's just like, you know how that feeling is when you first have sex with a girl, and not just your first time having sex, but it's like a new girl. It's like this. It's like almost like a drug, right? And then I'm trying to get her to actually have sex with me. She's like, no, I won't do it, and because we're not that serious yet. I'm like, wait, so you'll suck my dick, but you won't let me fuck you? Long story short, we ended up fucking. It was great. She climaxes, but like 10 minutes into it, maybe 10 or 15 minutes into it, I can't finish yet, or I haven't finished yet. And she starts getting sore and all that. And she's like, she tells me to stop. She tells me to go jerk off, which is really kind of fucked up. It's like, what, you can't give me a hand job or something? But all like my whole life, I've had an issue with taking too long to come. And some girls don't care. Some women actually prefer that. Some women take it as an insult because it's like, oh, like my pussy's not good. You think I'm ugly. You can't even finish. So I don't have any experience with that. But here's what I'll say about premature ejaculation advice. And this is very valid advice for anybody that's having trouble with that. The first piece of advice I have is obviously wear a condom, because that'll definitely take care of that issue. At least for me, and most guys cannot come very quick with a condom. If that doesn't work, or you just prefer not to use a condom, change positions on a regular basis. So, for example, you start off missionary or whatever, doggy style, whatever the case may be. You're pumping, and you get to the point of no return, and you kind of feel like you're about to bust. Well, stop, and change positions. Simple as that. And also talk to the person you're with about it. Talk to your chick about, hey, look, I gotta be honest. Sometimes I have an issue with coming too quick. I'm a little bit, it kind of bothers me a little bit. So, I like to change positions a lot so I don't come too fast, and plus so I can please you more. Something else you can do: fuck her good for a few minutes or whatever. Stop, eat her pussy really, really, really good. Trust me, she'll like it. And then change positions, go right back to it. So you're maximizing her pleasure. You're maximizing her experience. And, after 20, 30 minutes, whatever, bust. Some women only want to get fucked for 10 minutes. Some women want to go for an hour or more. I mean, it just depends on the person. I think communication is key. You ask about drug recommendations. I mean, I know that opiates, and I don't recommend you do opiates, but I know that things like tramadol and other opiates can not only dull your sensitivity, meaning that it won't feel as good, but it can also prevent you from coming too quick. You know, I personally wouldn't recommend putting any kind of foreign substance in your body to not come too fast. I would do the change positions things because there's a lot of benefits to it. Like I said, it makes it more exciting. You know, it shows the woman that you're into it, right? Like you want to change positions, you're more adventurous or whatever. And I guess you kind of learn more about what you like. So that's my advice, dude. That's my advice. Other than that, yeah, like I said, I would just kind of communicate to your partner about it, and hopefully there's somebody that's fairly open-minded. Let's see here. Any other? Yeah, these emails. I got some emails, but none of which I really feel like really talking about. I'm just gonna get into the fight. So I'm a big UFC fan. We got let's see here. Fight Night 143 coming up Saturday, January 19th at the Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York City. We got some good fights coming up, and I'm going to talk a bit about it. And if you're a UFC MMA fan, whether you're hardcore or casual, I think you'll find this very interesting. See if you guys agree with me, disagree with me. So, let's see, the early prelims. We got some guys that I know about. Not like, if you're a casual fan, you don't know any of these guys, but we got Bilal Muhammad versus Geoff Neal. Bilal Muhammad has a good record, but been knocked the fuck out in the welterweight division twice now by Abdul Razak Al Hassan, who's a terrifying fighter from Ghana. He's lost him twice now. Now he's fighting a guy named Geoff Neal, who's coming off a good head kick win. And that should be a fucking banger, dude. I'm going to pull Geoff Neal by knockout in the first round. Dennis Bermudez is fighting in the early prelims. Dennis Bermudez used to be a big name. He hasn't been doing so well recently, and now he's down on the early prelims. I don't really care about that fight. And then for let's see here, the prelim card, the preliminary card, there's only one fight that I really want to talk about, and that's Alexander Hernandez versus Donald Cerrone. Alexander Hernandez, I think this is his third fight in the UFC. He's 10-1 right now. His debut was against a guy named Beneil Dariush, who's a veteran of the UFC. This guy, Hernandez, comes in with bombs. And this is in the lightweight division, mind you. 155 pounds or 70 kilos. He comes in with bombs. Within 43 seconds of the first round, he knocks out Beneil Dariush with, I believe, a power left hook. I mean, this guy is absolutely fucking shredded, dude. His abs have abs and his biceps have pecs. The dude is fucking shredded. He's a dude from Texas. He's a young up-and-comer, kind of a heavy brawler, kind of like the wrestler type, going up against Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone is an absolute veteran. He's got the most wins in the UFC. He might have the most stoppages in the UFC or finishes in the UFC. He's got a record of 34-11, one no contest. Now, this is his first fight back at lightweight. For the last, I want to say his last maybe 6-7 fights, he fought at welterweight after lightweight. So at lightweight, originally, you know, he had a good record. He was always one of the top guys. He was always a force to be reckoned with, but he could never quite make it the title contention. He just never quite made it. Then he made the switch to welterweight a couple of years ago, and his first 4 wins at welterweight were all by finish. He was beating some of the best guys at welterweight easily. He had a couple bad losses. He lost to Jorge Masvidal. He got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal. It was bad. He got finished by Darren Till. He lost a close decision to Robbie Lawler. And then he came back and had a couple good wins against he just beat Mike Perry via armbar. Forget who else he beat too. But he's making his second lightweight debut. Now, the thing with Donald Cerrone is that he's older now. He's in his mid-30s. And if you guys know anything about weight cutting, cutting weight gets much harder as you get older. So he was fighting at 170 and only cutting 8 pounds. Now he's going back down to 155, cutting over 25 pounds, which is a lot of weight to cut, dude. Donald Cerrone's way more experienced. He's the more well-versed fighter than Alexander Hernandez, based on experience, I'd say, based on his record. However, my concern is it's not about skills. It's not about experience. It's about biology. It's about, can Donald Cerrone's older body hang with this way bigger weight cut now that he's older against a guy named Alexander Hernandez who is much younger, who has been used to cutting this weight, for a while now. My only concern is that Donald Cerrone's power and cardio won't be there against a young, fast, powerful dude like Alexander Hernandez, because Donald Cerrone has shown in the past a weakness for guys with good hands. He's shown a weakness against Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal, Darren Till, because he doesn't really move his head a whole lot. He doesn't necessarily have the best footwork because he has a Muay Thai base. So he's a little more stationary with his footwork because he throws a lot of kicks and knees. And in order to do that, you can't really be, bouncing around like a boxer so much. However, I'm going to pick Donald Cerrone via second round submission. I think he's going to go to the ground with Hernandez. I think he's going to submit him in the second round. Let's go to the main card. The first fight in the main card is Glover Teixeira versus Carl Roberson. Carl Roberson's last fight was on the same card as, I want to say, DC and Derek Lewis back in, I think it was November. And Carl Roberson beat Jack Marshman, a dude from Wales, by decision. He kind of outclassed the boxer Jack Marshman. He threw a lot of good kicks, kind of kept good distance. He's also a big light heavyweight too. But he's also pretty inexperienced. He's 7-1, so only 8 fights. And he's fighting Glover Teixeira, who is very experienced, but has also suffered a lot of really bad losses. I think his last fight was against Alexander Gustafsson in 2017. He got knocked out at the end of the 5th round viciously. He got knocked out brutally by Anthony Johnson with one punch in the first 10 seconds. But he's also beat a lot of good guys. He's beat guys like Ryan Bader, Ovince St. Peru. He's beat a lot of really good top guys. I personally think that Glover Teixeira will lose this fight because I think that his chin is. I think he's slow. First of all, I think that Glover Teixeira is kind of slow. I think he's kind of clunky in his movement, and I think that his chin is gone now. I think he's chinny, meaning that there's a lot of guys where once they start getting knocked out consecutively, it's one thing to get knocked out one time and then have 5 wins and then get knocked out again, but if you get knocked out fight after fight after fight, your chin usually always goes. And you see that with guys like Chuck Liddell, Andrei Arlovsky, even Alistair Overeem. There's countless other examples. I think Carl Roberson has the power, the speed to knock out Glover Teixeira. I think Glover Teixeira's only chance at winning, in my opinion, is by a submission. And he does have a good ground game. So I'm going to pick Carl Roberson by 3rd round knockouts. All right, women's flyweight fight. Got Paige Van Zandt versus Rachel Ostovich. There's a lot of controversy on this card, and I'm sure some of you might know about it because Rachel Ostovich, a couple months back, was the victim of domestic assault by her husband. She suffered a broken orbital, maybe some other things too. And she couldn't fight Paige Van Zandt because this fight was supposed to happen a while ago, but it got canceled and pushed back till now because she had a broken orbital because her husband hit her. And then in the co-main event, we got a guy named Greg Hardy, which I'll talk about here in a minute, who was convicted a while back of domestic battery on his wife or his girlfriend or whatever. I guess he was never convicted, but there was substantial proof that he basically put her head through a fucking coffee table, hit her, beat her around. And there's a lot of controversy that he is on the same card as her, considering that Greg Hardy was the instigator of domestic violence and Rachel Ostovich was the victim of domestic violence. That being said, I listened to an interview, a small clip of Ostovich talking about what happened. And like a lot of women who are the victims of domestic assault by a dude, they almost like forgive him. They don't want to press charges. Like she never pressed charges against her husband for doing that, for basically breaking her face and costing her money. And who knows what else, dude. I don't know why women do that a lot, but they do. Not all of them, but there's a lot of them that do. And listening to her interview, she basically talked about her husband, and she's like, sometimes people just misbehave. And I was thinking, misbehave? Misbehave. So, listen, misbehaving is throwing a temper tantrum and, cussing at somebody. Misbehaving is, punching a hole in the wall. Misbehaving is not the word to describe punching your wife in the face full force and literally breaking her eye bone and her cheekbone, her orbital. That's not misbehaving. That's hardcore violence. That's assault. That's domestic battery. That's you going to fucking prison. So in this interview, she was essentially, forgiving her husband for doing it, which for me makes her seem more stupid than her husband. Like any woman, okay, listen, any guy that beats on women, you're a fucking idiot. You're an asshole. You're not to be respected. You're at the lowest of the low, down there with the fucking pedophiles and all that. But for a woman who's a victim of that to not press charges, to, say it's okay, basically. Oh, he just made a mistake. Oh, he's just misbehaving. Sometimes we all make mistakes. That woman is dumber than the guy who did it. Dog bites you once, dog's fault. Dog bites you again, your fucking fault. Paige Van Zandt, probably most annoying voice ever. She's pretty good, and yeah, she's obviously good looking, and so is Ostovich, wears way too much makeup. Honestly, I hope that Paige Van Zandt gets it. I think that Rachel Ostovich is stupid for even forgiving her husband for doing that. Like I think you're a dumb bitch for doing that. Sorry, I just can't root for her now. Flyweight fight, Joseph Benavidez versus Dustin Ortiz. Now, Joey Benavidez is also a backup for Cejudo and Dillashaw for the main event, in case one of these guys pulls out. So, Dillashaw or Cejudo pulls out due to injury or anything like that, Joey Benavidez will take the place and possibly win the flyweight title. Joey Benavidez is fighting Dustin Ortiz. Dustin Ortiz has a lot of good wins. He's been in the game a long time. Flyweight division, I'll be honest, I don't really follow it too closely because it's the least entertaining division to watch. I think most people can agree. I hope that Joey Benavidez gets the win. I guess just because I know more about him. He's a bigger name. And he's been in the game longer. So I'm going for Joey Benavidez by decision. I don't see a knockout happening. I just see it kind of being like a technical decision. Lightweight bout. We got a good fight coming up, guys. Gregor Gillespie versus Yancy Medeiros. Gregor Gillespie is undefeated, 12-0 from I think he comes from Long Island, New York. Strong wrestler, strong ground and pound, heavy hitter, going against Yancy Medeiros, who's a savage, who's from Hawaii. He's got a lot of fucking wars, dude. A lot of good fights. A lot of really, really good fights. He's 15-5, won no contest. Gregor Gillespie, he's kind of like a version of Khabib a little bit. I mean, obviously not as, probably not as good, but meaning that it seems like once this guy gets a hold of you and puts you on your back, you ain't going no fucking where. And he rains those big old heavy fists on your head. That being said, Yancy Medeiros is a fucking savage, as I said. He's a scrapper. He's got cardio for fucking weeks. I think he's got good jiu-jitsu, good hands, pretty good stand-up overall. But I would like to see Gillespie keep his unbeaten streak. And just because it's kind of like a new name in the lightweight division, like Medeiros has fought a lot at welterweight too. And now he's fighting at lightweight again. So I think that the lightweight division, they already have a lot of good matchups. They have a lot of killers, and it's probably the deepest division in UFC. I think so. And it would be kind of cool to see another guy come in there and put things in the mix. And I think that Yancy Medeiros fighting at welterweight and cutting another more 15 pounds to fight again, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that fighters should not be cutting that much weight. I think it diminishes their performance. It diminishes their focus in training camp because they have to focus so much more on making weight rather than skill enhancement, right? Whereas if you only cut no more than 10 pounds, the whole weight cut thing is really not that big of a deal. So I'm pulling for Gregor Gillespie. I'm going to go with, I think he's going to win a decision. I think he's going to win a decision in a unanimous decision at that. Co-main event, we got heavyweight bout, Greg Hardy, undefeated, versus Alan Crowder, 9-3, won no contest. Greg Hardy, I mentioned before, was obviously convicted of domestic battery, and he's a big dude. He's a heavyweight. He's a giant dude, former NFL player. I think he was good too, and then he eventually left because he wasn't really improving. He wasn't really trying. He wasn't really taking it seriously, and apparently coaches were saying that he was kind of a bad influence for a lot of the other players, for various reasons. So he decided to leave the NFL, get into MMA. I've watched his fights, and don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a big, powerful, strong dude. And if he hits you clean, you're going out. But he fights like a meathead, and he fights like an inexperienced guy. I mean, he throws heavy hooks. I think he's got some hard kicks, but he's sloppy. He's a brawler. I don't know how his ground game is. Alan Crowder is a little more experienced. I've never seen him fight. But based on the experience, I think he's probably gonna have a better ground game at least. Now that doesn't mean Greg Hardy's gonna lose. Obviously, I'm hoping that Greg Hardy loses. First of all, I don't like his face. I'll just say it. I don't like his face, and the fact that this dude has been, the fact that the guy is a woman beater, automatically, I don't like you. I'm not a fan, and I don't see how anybody could be a fan of him. I mean, if you're a professional MMA fighter fighting in the UFC and you're a fucking heavyweight, a former NFL player, and you're beating on women, how is that to be respected? You get no respect. But he might pull an upset and knock out Alan Crowder, man. MMA is an unforgiving sport. You just never know. Obviously, I hope Alan Crowder knocks him the fuck out or chokes him the fuck out. Or Greg Hardy might beat him and then fight a better dude who really wants to take it to him for being a wife beater. But all in all, regardless of what happens to Greg Hardy, whether he wins or loses, I don't see him making it far in the UFC. I just don't see him making it far based on his skill set and based on the fact that if you're a convicted wife beater, karmically, I don't see how you could make it that far. So fuck Greg Hardy. I fucking hope he loses. Main event, interesting fight, dude. We got Henry Cejudo versus TJ Dillashaw. Now, Henry Cejudo kind of burst onto the scene a couple years ago. I never really heard of him until he fought Demetrius Johnson back a couple years ago. Obviously, he got starched in the first round, took some time off, came back, polished his skills, and ever since then, he's been looking way, way, way better. His striking looks better. He beat Demetrius Johnson just a little while ago in a very boring fight. It wasn't even really a fight. To me, if you're holding somebody down as if you're waiting for the cops to come, that's not fighting. Fighting is when, you're attacking, you're defending attacks, you are moving around, you're doing something. If you just hold a guy down, to me, that's not exactly an impressive win. I don't think he's an exciting champion. I don't think he has an exciting personality. With that being said, he is the most accomplished wrestler, I guess, along with Daniel Cormier in the UFC. He's an Olympic gold medalist. A lot of fighters say that he's the best pure wrestler in the UFC, but that doesn't matter. That's just like how Floyd Mayweather's the best pure boxer, right? But if you put him in even a kickboxing match or MMA fight, it's not going to translate. The way you box in a boxing match is going to be different from the way you box in a kickboxing match, and the way you box in an MMA fight, and the same goes for wrestling. You have to look out for different things, right? Submissions, punches, knees, kicks, all that type of stuff. Henry Cejudo is good, and he's fought at flyweight his whole career, as far as I know. And he's a game dude, and he's not an easy fight for anybody. Now, TJ Dillashaw is the reigning bantamweight champ right now. He was a while ago. He got it taken from him by fucking, I guess, Dominic Cruz, right? He got his belt back. I think he's obviously the best bantamweight ever. And this is his first fight going to 125. Now, TJ's a small dude. Of course, he's like, what, 5'6.5". Now, you know, man, this is tough, dude, because it's a way bigger weight cut than what he's used to. His coaches say he's feeling good. He says he's feeling good. He looks obviously smaller and leaner. My only concern with this is that Cejudo has been cutting weight to 125 his whole career. So he's used to the process. He knows how he's going to feel when he cuts the weight. You know, he knows the risk and the reward or whatever. He's got it down to a science. Whereas TJ Dillashaw, this is his first and hopefully only time making this big of a weight cut. Will it diminish his cardio, his power? I don't know, man. I mean, I'm sure he'll be faster, but will he be stronger? Will he have the endurance cutting that weight, you know, depleting his body like that? Also, Dillashaw is a much more skilled and complete mixed martial artist. You know, Henry Cejudo has the best pure wrestling. TJ Dillashaw has the best MMA wrestling. You guys get what I'm saying? He has the best wrestling for MMA. His striking, his movement is far better than Cejudo. Something about Dillashaw is that, unlike most fighters, and I don't know why more guys don't do this, but he does a lot of switching of the stances when he's fighting. He goes from southpaw to orthodox. And not only does he switch stances, but he can attack and defend while switching stances, which is very tricky to deal with. Cejudo, I'm sure he knows this, of course. I don't know if he's not as skilled technically as TJ. I think this is going to be a good fight, man. I'm rooting for TJ Dillashaw. I hope he takes the belt from Cejudo. I hope he finishes him. I hope he's the flyweight, bantamweight champ. And it would be cool to see TJ Dillashaw go up to featherweight and take on one of those guys. He talked about being a triple champ. Now, he talks about fighting Max Holloway eventually. I think Max Holloway is way too big for him. You know, Max Holloway, you know, immensely struggles to cut to 145. And he's 5'11". You know, TJ Dillashaw, it's a fairly easy cut to 135. He's 5'6". You know, that doesn't mean that he can't beat Max Holloway, but I would still like to see him do it. I'd love to see him take on the challenge, and I do believe it's totally possible. But man, that's a tall order to take on Max Holloway, especially if you're a career-long bantamweight. So my pick for that fight would be TJ Dillashaw. I think will get it done by decision in the fight. Or possibly a TKO. Because I think that Henry Cejudo is a lot tougher than he was. Meaning, like, his skill, I guess. I don't mean, like, his mentality. He's always been a tough guy. But I just am personally a bigger fan of TJ Dillashaw just for his body of work. Even his personality. You know, yeah. And just his skill set. So, anyways, guys, those are my fight picks. Hope you guys enjoy the fight. I know this is kind of a longer than normal B-hole. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be trying to put one out every week consistently. And shout out to all my fans, followers, haters. I love you all. If you guys would like me to discuss anything on the B-hole or a No Joke Howard video, hey, email me, y'all. nojokestriking@gmail.com. Bitches. All right, email me, man. And if it's something that's like 3, 4, 5, 6 fucking paragraphs long, I'm probably not even gonna respond. If it's, you know, something I'm not interested in or that doesn't really make any sense, I'm probably not going to respond. But if it's, you know, like if you present your email in a nice way, that is, like 1 or 2 paragraphs that is worthy of being on a video, or that you feel is worthy of being on a video or in the B-hole, please email me. And I'm trying to get Insta famous, y'all. Follow me on Instagram, bitches, at Brayton Howard. That'll be in the description box below, the comments section. Hope you guys have a good one, man. Take care. Peace!